Hello, this is Patrick White with ISA 4220 System Security 2. We are in the fall semester of 2018 at Kennesaw State University, and today I will be discussing operating systems, firewalls, and hardening recommendations for both of them. So let's go into it. We are going to be using server operating systems in this class. More specifically, we'll be using Windows Server 2012 Standard Edition and Ubuntu Server 17.10 LTS. The firewalls associated with these operating systems that we will be utilizing are Windows Firewall R2 and SE Linux IP tables. So let's talk about our first server operating system, Windows Server 2012. This is an operating system that is designed for use on servers. It allows users within a network to share services and data, and also provides extensive administrative control of data storage, applications, and corporate networks. Windows Server is pretty popular. If you're going to be a server administrator in this day and age, it is advised that you are familiar with this system as it is widely used. More specifically, the Windows Server 2012 is very popular still to this day. So some hardening recommendations while using this operating system. There is, first and foremost, the preparation and installation of Windows Server 2012. If a machine is a new install, protect it from hostile network traffic until the operating system is installed and hardened, and you want to consider using the security configuration wizard to assist in the hardening the host. Next, we have service packs and hotfixes. You're going to want to install the latest service packs and hotfixes from Microsoft and enable automatic notification of patch availability, and this will enable you to have the most up-to-date hotfixes, and you will be less vulnerable to known attacks that are being hotfixed. So next we have user account policies. These are really just general guidelines that you want to establish for every account within the network or every user that has access to these servers. Some general practices for user accounts are setting minimum password lengths, enable password complexity requirements, do not store passwords using reversible encryption, and configuring account lockout policies. User rights assignment. You want to restrict the ability to access this computer from the network to administrators and authenticated users. Do not grant any users that act as a part of operating system right. This will allow them to get into the actual operating system and basically have root access to certain areas of the operating system. You also want to restrict local logon access to administrators and deny guest accounts the ability to log on as a service, a batch job, locally, or via RDP. Some security settings that you want to utilize in Windows Server 2012 would be to place the university warning banner in the message text for users attempting to log on, disallow users from creating and logging in with Microsoft accounts, disable the guest account. You want to require Control-Alt-Delete for interactive logins, as well as configure Microsoft Network Server to digitally sign communications if the client agrees. Some network access controls that you can utilize would be to disable anonymous SID/name translations. You want to also not allow everyone permissions to apply to anonymous users. You want to know who's within your system. You don't want to just have a bunch of anonymous users in your system. That way you can better track who's doing what. Some network security settings would be to allow system to use computer identity for the NTLM process. You also want to do things such as not storing LAN manager hash values, and configure the Windows firewall and all profiles to block inbound traffic by default. Additional security protection could be things like disabling or uninstalling unused services, configuring file system permissions or registry permissions, configure user rights to be as secure as possible, and also the physical security of the aspect. You want to make sure that it's physically secure in whichever place that it is. So next, let's talk about the Ubuntu server. This is another server operating system, and here we have a couple pictures of each one. I just wanted to show you guys how closely related they are to certain client operating systems. Obviously, in the top left, we have the Windows 2012 server, and it is based on the Windows 8. As you can tell, it has the sort of application square style interface. And the Ubuntu is obviously based off of just the general Ubuntu user client. So you can see how closely related they are here, and some hardening recommendations for Ubuntu would be to do automatic security updates. This will ensure that you have the latest patches and hot fixes to help with any vulnerabilities in the current operating system. You also want to configure the user's profiles and ensure that nobody has root access with any account. If they get root access, they have access to every single aspect of the system. Account management, you want to check accounts with no passwords. You want to do things like delete inactive accounts that will never be used again. This will just ensure that people aren't able to log into the systems, either other unknown profiles or profiles that should have already been deleted. Other hardening recommendations for Ubuntu server would be to use the IP table firewall, which we will go into more detail, as well as using SSH to secure just general encryption. So, talking about firewalls now, we're on Windows Firewall R2, and this is going to be the firewall that we use in tandem with Windows Server 2012 to harden it. So, ways that we can harden the firewall itself are using Windows Security Configuration Wizard to give us recommended settings for account management and user permissions. It will also enable you to check the traffic, the incoming traffic, and you have the option to just disable any unknown incoming traffic, or even for the fact checked known traffic, and just check and make sure that everyone is where they're supposed to be. Other recommendations include stopping unnecessary features and services. This will provide a higher level of security, as you don't have to worry about all these different services and features that you're not even using. They could be vulnerabilities within themselves, and there's just no point in having them. They're just add to the risk. Other hardening recommendations include updating and applying necessary policies. These obviously are from within the organization. You want to make sure your policies reflect how you want your data stored, how you want accounts managed, and user permission, and all that fun stuff. Other recommendations include removing or changing policies that may conflict with more important/efficient rules, and updating and patching the firewall often, again, to keep it up to date with the latest threat security and just general knowledge of what's vulnerable and what's not. So the other firewall I will be discussing is SE Linux, and using the IP tables application within that. So obviously you want to enable SE Linux when you're using IP tables as opposed to just regular Linux within the server operating system. You want to also update your policies often to ensure that you are using best practices according to your company's mission and values. You want to patch regularly to keep databases and applications up to date as far as security. Enable IP tables, obviously, to ensure that only trusted IP addresses are going within and without your network. Port restrictions and monitoring. You want to ensure that only ports you need for operations are open and monitor those ports as well. You want to limit access to running servers. This way you can better monitor the traffic in the server. And this is my references page. I know this was my first video, a little short. I'll be working on that in the future. Thank you.